We have here the lovely Lorraine, who is the CE of Homebuilders West Coast Trust, Holly, who is the home-based family worker for Homebuilders as well, Megan, the practice manager at Homebuilders, and Tessa, Youth Services Coordinator for Rising Rangatahi. So look, I'm going to pass you over into their fabulous hands and let them take you through this journey of what they have been doing. This program. Thank you.
Oh, cheers, Fiona.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Lorraine Scanlon, tuku ingoa. I'm the manager at Homebuilders West Coast Trust.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Holly Parsons. I'm the home-based family worker at Homebuilders.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Tisa Takongingoa, ko Kawatiri aho, ko Bullerik te wahi mahi, no reira tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, my name's Tessa and I am the Youth Services Coordinator at Bullerik.
And kia ora koutou, my name's Megan Bird and I'm Practice Manager here at Homebuilders West Coast Trust.
So throughout 2020, the community, the Bulla, pardon me, came together to start a conversation around the number of young people who were involved in the youth justice system and how we, community organisations, can support. After a number of meetings and many conversations, Oranga Tamariki discussed with 5 organisations an opportunity to collaborate and work together to provide wraparound services to improve the well-being, health, care and protection and literacy of our rangatahi and also support their whānau. The contracts were offered to 5 organisations for a 3-year term.
So following that consultation, Oranga Tamariki came back to the community and put a proposal to those partners, and we started the contracting of the following services. So the youth worker and coordinator contract went to Bullerik, which is Tessa's role. We had training for professionals, which was going to be led by Explore Specialist Services, and they were going to be running workshops for professionals and whānau, and Tessa will talk a little bit more about the subjects and topics that they were going to cover. There was a wānanga contract that was offered to a local organisation called Te Hā o Kawatiri. We had literacy support from Anyone Can Read, Whānau Tautoko, which was offered to Homebuilders, and then the outdoor and adventure experiential opportunities, which was offered to Whenua Iti Trust. And I think the uniqueness of this was that we are a rural area that struggles to get in specialist support services, especially face-to-face specialist support services. So it was an opportunity for us to partner with some of these organisations that are not necessarily based in our area on a regular basis and work with them on a consistent basis for a sort of more long-term outlook, which has been really, really incredible for our community.
As managers, our early task was to employ the right people, to work as a team to build a model to offer holistic wraparound services. Central to our model is building trust-based relationships with young people, to be client-led and to encourage rangatahi to be part of the decision-making and the intervention. And this is in order to support and encourage our young people to build on their existing resources and capacity and to recognise healthy well-being.
Right, then July 2021, our contract began and Westport had the worst flooding that it had experienced in decades. We had 2,000 people evacuated, 563 houses were either red or yellow stickered. To say it was a rocky start was probably a bit of an understatement. With the impact of COVID still being quite prevalent, it took some time to get things kind of up and running. In the beginning, it was just well, I was the first person to be employed, so I was kind of navigating that by myself for a wee while, as most of my colleagues and other support services and even myself were kind of out doing different kind of community support in the community hub, anything along those lines. Yeah, so I started off with kind of getting to know what the contract entailed. It definitely was a bit of confusing because at the start there was all sorts of different things that could have been under the contract, like from app designs to different kind of program designs. So it definitely was a wee bit confusing at the start. As the time went on, the community started to rebuild, and all community services kind of started coming back to their core responsibilities. And yeah, well, until we had another flood in February, but yeah, that's a whole nother story. So the 3 NGOs that were locally based started employing my lovely friends, Holly and Bianca from Te Hawa Kawatiri. After that, we started our weekly meetings, and we went through all of the nitty-gritty stuff, like how the referral process would work, how we do all of our notes. Yeah, all that kind of fun stuff at the start. By November 2021, we had decided what our name was. So that was Rising Rangatahi, decided by the amazing Holly, after so many conversations around what we could name the inclusion project. I designed the logo. We got t-shirts. We got business cards, like all the fun stuff. And then finally, our van got wrapped. So we received a 2021 Ford Transit through the contract to help support any youth services or youth to get around where they need to be in a prevention space. It's been used in heaps of different ways, but I'll go into that a little bit more a little bit later as well. But to be honest, like especially at the start, don't think I would have been able to get through a lot of it, and Holly can probably say the same, without you, Megan.
So my role here at Homebuilders is practice manager, and with that is the clinical supervision of our team. So it was a natural progression to share some of that with the Rising Rangatahi team. So really my role in Rising Rangatahi has been to be of guidance, mentoring, provide reflective supervision, ensure and facilitate conversations around safety and how we can keep the young person at the centre of the work, to problem solve, to discuss how we can reach and coordinate services to those really hard to connect with and hard to reach with whānau. Yeah, so really my role has just been to be one of a support system for our team that's out there on the ground doing the mahi.
And to write the minutes.
And to write the minutes, which is not necessarily my skill set at all times.
Awesome. Yeah, so my name is Holly, and I am contracted 20 hours per week to provide whānau support for Rising Rangatahi. Homebuilders has supported me to study the Bachelor of Social Work throughout the past 3 years, so I'm on my last year next year. And I do that through distance at Massey University. So that goes quite nicely along with what I do here at Rising Rangatahi. So the work that I do is helping provide a wraparound support system for the referred youth. And I work with the whānau. So this includes support with parenting strategies, behaviour management, relationships, child development, education and health. And I also work with the siblings, grandparents, and anyone else that's within that whānau setting. And as part of my role, I also help with the Rangatahi after school program, which Tessa will talk about soon, and events held within our community. And yeah, the collaboration of agencies providing the wraparound support, I feel, has been hugely beneficial to Rangatahi and the Bulla. And as has been said before about us being very rural, I just think it's been a fantastic initiative to be part of, and I hope we can continue it into the future.
In my role, youth services coordinator, to roll with 1,000 different hats. I probably created most of these because I just like to add more onto my already full plate. But my passion is my passion. My passion is really in preventative support, and this role definitely really aligns with that. Under this role, I'll list off some of the things. There's probably 1,000 others, but I support and coordinate different kind of youth programs that's held in Bulla. So that's like boxing, youth, mindfulness, self-defense. I do the coordination for Explore, specialist advice, Whenua Iti, and Anyone Can Read, as Megan talked a little bit about before, and I'll go into depth about shortly. I also created and facilitated an after-school Rangatahi program, which is in partnership with the Westport Police. When the contract was brought about, as you would have seen in the last couple of slides, was under my contract was to try and bring back Cactus, which was like a preventative program for young people to be taken through in like a youth justice kind of space. But after all of the research that I kind of did around the rural options with Cactus, it was very much a full-time position to be coordinating it. So just found it was a little bit far out of my reach with everything else I was doing. So I partnered up with the police, and we developed the after school Rangatahi program. So that is run every Thursday or after school, where we go through all different kinds of values like communication, compassion, life skills. So that's been really fun. We've gone through 3 schools now. So yeah, that's another thing I'm super excited about. I support in the youth justice space through FGCs and youth interviews and mentoring. I facilitate the youth services networking meeting. So that's just about bringing 20 to 30 different kind of youth services that they come together once a term, and we just debrief, we problem solve, we do all sorts of stuff in those meetings, which has been hugely beneficial, I think, for the youth services space. I oversee the Rising Rangatahi van, which you've seen earlier. So that can be used, 12 seats, it can be used by anybody, all the fuel's paid for through the contract as well. So it's been an amazing asset to our town. We've seen bands use it, we've seen sports teams, we've seen different kind of youth services using it. It's definitely been a huge asset. Through the contract, we're also allocated quite a pool of funding to be used in the preventative space as well. So that can be used in all sorts of different ways as well, like clothing, accommodation, camps, programs, anything along those lines, which I also oversee. And although it's not part of my role, I am also a fully trained mates and dates facilitator, and I coordinate the local youth council with another youth worker. Safe to say I'm a bit busy, but I love it. So also under the contract, we had Te Hawa Kawatiri, which holds a contract to help provide rangatahi with Te Ao Māori approach to the project. The aim was to hold a weekly wānanga to support rangatahi to become more within their hiniraro, their tinana, wairoa, and whānau, so they're able to come into their true and unlimited potential. As you can see in the photo there as well, Bianca is a master of traditional Māori medicines and practices. So she often comes to my after school rangatahi program, and we do rongo Māori. As you can see there, I think that day we made some balms, so probably some kawakawa balms. I think we could add all sorts of different kind of things in there as well. So she's been an amazing asset through the project as well. And then we have Anyone Can Read. Noel MacArthur is contracted in to help our local rangatahi with all their literacy needs. Noel is a former school principal with 20 years experience in education. He's currently worked with around 70 students in Bulla, excelling their skill set. The feedback we've had and the movement this has caused for our rangatahi is honestly unbelievable. The feedback from not only the youth, but their parents and their teachers, it's honestly crazy. He's a bit of a magic worker, if you ask me. He provides programs across all ages. So he's worked in primary schools to high schools. He's worked at home with our NEETs. He's all across the board, just willing to support. So he's down here on a Thursday and a Friday each week during term time. That's Noel. And then we have Whenua Iti Outdoors. So they hold 2 programs under the Rising Rangatahi project. One of those is the Kawatiri Adventurers, which is a holiday program that we usually have around 12 tamariki, around 11 to 14, that go away for 2 days per school holidays. They often just engage with nature, take full force onto what elements we've got here, like abseiling, kayaking, all sorts of stuff. Bushwalks, the feedback that we've had from that's really cool too. We don't really have a lot of opportunities for our young people as a group to go out and do these kind of things. So that's been awesome. The other contract that Whenua Iti have is the Rangatahi Explorers, which is an interim program, which dives a little bit deeper into that confidence and leadership building. So when they first came, we had them at a primary school, and they had 6 rangatahi that went with them for the first year. And the outcomes from that were really cool too. And now they're at Buller High School this year with another 6 young people. Explorers contracted to provide Kawatiri with some specialist advice workshops around behaviour support. It's currently being run each term and is open to anyone in the social services space, and now also open to whānau as well. We've seen workshops such as sensory-based behaviour, trauma-informed care, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, understanding autism, and neurodiversity and trauma impact on the brain. These workshops have been completely free to attend, and the feedback we've had is amazing. So, and as Megan said before, having this kind of thing, be able to be face-to-face with our professionals and our whānau is amazing, because we all know that there's plenty of workshops online, but nothing compares to those face-to-face workshops. So the feedback, as I said, has been great from those two. And where we are now, so that leads us to now. We've successfully run many events as a team, as Holly kind of dipped into before. We've had community barbecues, we've had a meet the team event, we've participated in the parades, as you would have seen in Megan's photo before with, we supported different other organisations with their events as well, such as like Gumboot Friday, Children's Day, Youth Week, and all sorts of other events that's been around Kawatiri as well. We've seen a community come together through all sorts of different kinds of events and through the networking meetings. We've seen an array of different, the funding pool being used in an array of different ways as well, through camps, shoes for school, bedding, accommodation, lots of driver's licensing, and so many success stories. When it comes to our whānau approach as well, is if it's like a young person who's come to us and they're just on the verge of convictions and they're in employment by, in a couple of months' time, and or if we just know that they've got food in their cupboard, there's just, this contract has been amazing. I think that as a community, we would all speak up about that. I know that every single person that I kind of speak to is like, how do we give our feedback? How do we keep this thing going? But we are 2.5 years deep now, so we're almost at our 3-year mark. So it'd be a real shame to see this and all of this mahi kind of go to waste. So we're in the process now.
Of where to next. So we invite and value feedback from our young people about their service experience. The feedback is critical to us at a governance level as we consider the future planning for this program. And the feedback enables us to understand and to evidence why it exists, what is the purpose, and how we do this. And we want to strengthen the program. So we now, as governance, need to consider the feedback and all those other relevant statistics that we have got from this program to search for funding to continue to provide the program in future.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, guys. So we've got a good amount of time for questions or anything. So if you'd like to pop it into chat or, unmute yourself and ask your question. And if there's a few of you, can pop up your hand and I can just run through everyone. Is there anyone got a question? Just trying to look to see if there's a hands up. I was going to sort of ask just to start off, how do youth at Rangatahi come to your attention? Where in the system are they already, or how does it work for you guys?
We see referrals coming from all different kinds of directions, to be honest. A lot of them at the beginning were around Oranga Tamariki. We've seen them come through schools. Our youth prevention officer through the police often puts referrals through. And just because of Bulla Reap as a building as well, we hold the Youth Services MSD contract as well as some other youth justice and Ministry of Education contracts for youth as well. So it's quite a good passover when it comes to different kind of support that's needed within our organisation. So that's the usual way that referrals come through for youth specifically. But even schools, we've got a really good relationship with all of our schools now as well. So
and any of the other organisations in this initiative may have a lead in for a referral as well.
Thank you. Is there anyone got any questions? Okay. Sorry. Can I keep talking? Just asking. This is just fascinating, and especially for me personally, as we're writing, briefings to government, and you want we're trying to share and put down our thoughts and feelings, lead into what we want to see a new government do. But my question sort of comes back to, you had that initial slide with the different organisations and the FTE, and this is probably just one of those contracting questions, but how tricky is all that to manage? How was that to work out who got what? And, in terms of, have you found it's worked quite well, or have you been able to go through and reassess? Has it been a good process for you guys, really?
In terms of the contracting, I think that was talked about very early on, and there were many conversations around what is the overall need, and then where does each organisation fit in that need. And as we had, and we do continue to have governance meetings, those kinds of things are reviewed and discussed at each meeting. And it was very early on, it was keeping track of, are we on track? Have we got enough? Are we doing enough? Do we need more? And so we made sure that we were on track, and that our people and our organisations had enough resource to do the work they needed to do.
I think we're also really lucky in Kawatiri as well, as a lot of our social services don't work in silos. We're all reasonably well connected. It's definitely another silver lining, I guess, to our floods, because we all came together a lot more tighter around that time as well. So everybody's just so supportive of each other. Everybody's willing to put their hand up to help out however they can. Everybody's just really interconnected. There's no silos of working.
And
we took the view that if something was needed to be done, then who was the best person or that skill set or the organisation, rather than it needed to be one or another. It was around looking at the need and who best and how best do we do that. It's been one of the successes of this initiative, is that it has been quite a team process and quite a team event, and working really, really well. Everyone has that really open and honest, transparent conversations and communication.
This sounds amazing. What have been personal highlights for you all during this whole, the project and process, and then and as it's gone on?
I think there's been a couple, but I think the Rising Rangatahi After Schools program has been a really, really cool initiative. It's a sort of creative way of connecting with young people in their safe space. So it's based at their school. It's connecting them in with the different workers. So Tessa and Holly, also Sarah from our local police station has been fantastic. Yeah, I just think that's a really creative way of reaching those young people. And we don't have here in the Bulla, we don't have a huge amount of after school activities unless they're sports based. So it was a kind of creative way of connecting them with those young people. And we've Tessa's based this term out at Rangatahi School, which is a rural school. How many students would be there? It's a really small.
I don't know. I've got all the year 6, 7 and 8s, and there's 11.
Yeah. So it's a rural, little tiny school on the beach. It's absolutely beautiful. But to be able to go there and provide the program out there has been really cool.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you as well, Megs. It's been my cup filler for a lot of the time that it's been running, for sure. And you are right. It's like sometimes I forget about the fact that I'm not solely there just to help them learn the values. It is about, because we do bring in we do the rock and water theory for the first session, and I have 2 people from Homebuilders that come in, and that's them connecting now or having a relationship with Homebuilders. And then, I may have other people that come in during the program to run other things, or, our life skills session, we sometimes go to the marakai, and, that's a connection there. I sometimes forget that that's also a really big part of it, is building those connections and relationships with other services.
Yeah, I just think probably the meetings that we had on a weekly basis were really beneficial, just because then, like Lorraine was saying before, we could actually just right there and then decide who was going to who, and
the pathway for them as well.
The pathway then was really simplified, but also we knew that the people were getting looked after straight away. So yeah, I think that the meetings worked really well together.
And that's, I think, as well as having Megan there too, because you're a wealth of knowledge within the social services or like any kind of support sector as well. So if it was above or beyond what we had capacity to at that point, then Megan was a good wealth of knowledge for where we could go for that other kind of support as well. And I guess especially in the beginning, it helped me with my coordinator role, because it was supposed to be like a community coordinator as well. I was supposed to be quite within the space and help to network and help to be that person of contact for people to get information from. So I've learned a lot from Megan over the last 2.5 years. So that's been great. But yeah, those meetings, I agree. It was great. You'd get a referral in on the Monday, and it would sit down on the Thursday, and somebody would have been contacted Friday, so it was just a really quick process. And if something came like up on a Tuesday, then these 2 were always a phone call away for me to ask how things were going. It was just, it's been such a team approach from the beginning. And it's just, I see it continuing in some form of space, even if the contract does finish.
I think as well, just a side note on the fund that we have available locally is such an asset for our young people. Tessa created the most straightforward funding application form I've ever used, because you know what some of them are like, that it's just an absolute nightmare. And I can ring Tessa and say, hey, this is going on for this young person. Can I pop in a funding application? And it's so quick. It's really lovely to have something that's available that doesn't have too many criteria aspects to it. So we've helped a young person get glasses recently who couldn't quite meet other sort of funding requirements. We've helped with assessments. We've helped with access of siblings being able to see another sibling. There's just such a variety, and I think that we're really lucky to have had that as well, to have that flexibility and to be able to use that for the young people's needs.
Definitely.
And I think for me, I've really enjoyed strengthening our working relationships with other organisations at a governance level, as well as the social aspect. We have a really good social connection as well.
I think that's really important as well, you know, like it definitely interconnects us all really well. Like all of the managers, you're all very friendly. All of us, we're all very friendly. You know, we all get along really well. So it makes life a breeze.
And that's not to say we don't have robust discussions. We do, but it's just a way of being able to, you know, be totally honest with each other while being totally kind. And we can have those conversations and hear each other, and we understand.
Gosh, this sounds amazing. There's just a comment here. Bernie Peters had to leave, but she said, wow, what an incredible initiative. Will be exciting to see the outcomes for Rangatahi. Good luck with the funding. So that did lead me into my next a little bit. Obviously, it's coming to an end here. What are you doing at the moment? Or even what tweaks, as well as that, you know, trying to secure more funding, what changes might you make? Or just for anyone out there who's thinking about their own area as well in doing this.
I think for us on the Buller and the West Coast, funding's always going to be difficult, and so we've started the conversation, but we will start the work in earnest to gather the evidence, gather the good news stories, or stories, those good and not so good, because they all tell a story. So put our stories together, gather our evidence, and then we need to be looking at the most appropriate places to seek funding.
I'm definitely in the process at the moment of going through what's worked, what hasn't worked, what we could have had less of, what we could have had more of, and how we can kind of come forward with that approach. Because, you know, I mean, there's quite a bit of money that's gone into this project, so there are some things that are probably going to drop off by the end of July, but it's about how we kind of create a space where those things can still, you know, be utilised, like the things that are really needed, and how we can move forward with that.
With your funders, are you talking the same sort of funders who funded it initially, or more broader?
No, that will definitely be talking. They come to our governance meeting, and they know exactly, you know, what we're thinking, where we're heading, and they're with us. It's just a matter of the availability from their perspective.
I
know that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go for it, Tessa.
Earlier in the year, I know that there was some funding that came through from Ministry of Youth Development, which could have helped, but unfortunately it started in January and the contract doesn't finish until July, so there wasn't too much leeway there. So I guess it's just keeping our eyes open as well for different funding possibilities that could come through to help support us with carrying this stuff on. Even if it doesn't come from Oranga Tamariki, I'm sure that we'll be on the scavenger hunt.
It sounds terrible that you kind of have to do that when you've, you know, sort of been able to prove what's working, and it's such a local, and you know, you're meeting a local need, meeting it well, and also meeting those needs at Rangatahi, so the funding can be used too if they need glasses or anything that, as you said, it's whānau centred. Can you share some of those, what you might tweak, you know, going forward, or what you could do less of? Tessa, you kind of mentioned that. I don't know if you're at a stage where you could kind of share that stuff, or there's anything.
Yeah, definitely. The Whenua Iti holiday program, I think, has been hugely beneficial for us, but the council are looking at putting some funding towards Whenua Iti to hold some of those, so there's an opportunity for that to be decreased through Whenua Iti. Now that Buller as a whole kind of has a better response, like a better relationship with Whenua Iti, the high school is utilising them more. So I mean, that could be something that could drop off because it's being utilised in other spaces now. Explore specialist advice has been amazing, but we probably pushing everything that we've kind of delivered now. So looking to the future to if we could just limit that to maybe a couple a year instead of one every term. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that we probably will lose the van. They've been leasing it for the past 3 years, which is a lot of money, which I don't know, we could try and scavenge around some funding to get another van. But yeah, that's probably another thing as well. I think the most important thing is going forward is to try and just keep us as a unit and be able to have that funding for us to do that. But yeah, it'd be still good to have Whenua Iti around in some space. Noel is a big one, which we would like to keep. As I said, the impact that he has had for our rangatahi through schools, through our NEETs, anything along those lines has been pretty crucial, to be honest, to this project. We've seen young people who would never pick up a book that are reading chapter books, like they couldn't read a sentence to being able to, do their driver's licensing. It's been a huge change that's been needed for a long time. So having him in some form as well, but his contract was to help deliver it or help pass his program on to a local organisational person in Buller as well. So he's been working at training some other people up to hopefully carry on that work here, even if he can't. So that's a hopefulness for that side of things as well. But yeah, there'll have to be different kind of tweaks that come to it, I suppose, because I'd hate to know how much it's all costs.
I was going to say things like vans, especially in a rural area, just make such a difference.
Yeah, totally.
Just with some of the rangatahi you worked with, like being able to pick them up makes a difference. There's been sort of stumbling blocks for them, and those sorts of things help. But what else, from those programs have been, you've seen some of them flourish or thrive in front of your eyes, sort of thing, as you go along?
Every aspect. My after school rangatahi program, by the end of it, we're seeing the little shy kids that wouldn't say a word to working as a team. There's outcomes through every aspect of this project, to be honest. Yeah, all sorts, like especially with the Anyone Can Read, Whenua Iti, we've got a young person who's been on majority of the holiday programs, and from the point that he was quite violent at home to now being a lovely boy, from just being able to get out and do that hands-on kind of stuff. Honestly, there's success stories in every aspect. I could probably go on for ages, but we've got a lot that we could say.
Collect those stories,
yeah,
isn't it? Just to be so you can going into next year, isn't it? Now this is just all sounding amazing. I haven't noticed any hands up, and I've just been dominating this and having a conversation. So if there's anything else coming up through from anyone last minute, are there any last things you guys would like to share? Our wonderful team here from the West Coast, just while we've got another couple of minutes or two that's popped into your head, or if you want
we just want to appreciate the invitation to share our project. I know that it's something that we're really proud of, and we thanks so much for your time and taking an interest.
Thank you,
us space. Yeah.
No, this is wonderful, and it's lovely to be able to have this to share the work that you all do and the difference you're making in the lives of your communities there, and it's actually tailored to what your community needs. So it's really amazing to hear. Now I'm just mindful of the time there. If there's nothing else that's come to mind for anyone else, I think there's a couple of waves.
Thanks, Claire.
I will close off our space so everyone can get back to their day. There's a comment here from Belinda: a meaningful and exciting initiative. Thanks for sharing your experiences. Thank you. This is just wonderful. So lovely to go off into the day. I just heard some beautiful work. We know you all work really hard in your communities trying to do it, and our team here at SSPA like to hear that and be able to share that and bring that forth. So important. So I will close our space, and you can all head off into your day, whether that's wet and miserable or misty or a beautiful day wherever you are. Right. Kia tau ngā mana ki tanga, ki runga ki a tātou. Kua tau, kua ea, tūturu whakamaua kia tina. Homie, hui, tai, ki.